What happens when a ceasefire offer is rejected? Not quietly, not diplomatically, but with deliberate humiliation. Within hours of Russia rejecting a proposed ceasefire, missiles were already in the air, diplomacy collapsed, and the world moved one step closer to a wider war. This wasn't just a no. This was a message calculated, public, and impossible to ignore. For weeks, pressure had been building behind closed doors. At the center of it all was a ceasefire framework, reportedly backed by Donald Trump, that promised one thing above everything else: time. Not peace, not resolution. Time. Time to stop the bleeding. Time to reassess positions. Time to prevent the conflict from spiraling even further out of control. It was survival time. Many believe Moscow might accept it not as an endpoint, but as a pause, a temporary freeze, a tactical reset. They were wrong. Putin didn't negotiate. He dictated. There was no counter-offer, no soft rejection, no diplomatic language. Russia's demands were absolute. Ukraine must be fully disarmed. Ukraine must be permanently barred from NATO. All occupied Ukrainian territory must be recognized as Russian forever. No timelines, no guarantees, no room for discussion. This wasn't diplomacy. It was a demand for surrender. And the response wasn't theoretical. It was immediate. Then came the response. Within hours, Russian forces launched fresh attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure. Power grids were hit. Logistics hubs were targeted. Critical systems that keep cities functioning were damaged or destroyed. The timing wasn't coincidence. It was punctuation. A statement written in missiles instead of words. Washington didn't wait. Within hours of Moscow's rejection, Donald Trump convened an emergency meeting of the National Security Council. The tone shifted. The posture changed. And then came the decision. Not warnings, not condemnations, not statements of concern. Weapons, advanced air defense systems were authorized. Long-range ATACMS missiles were approved. Delivery timelines were accelerated. Officials framed the move as deterrence, not provocation. This wasn't symbolic support. This wasn't political theater. This was escalation. Deliberate, controlled. Washington's message wasn't subtle. Reject diplomacy and Ukraine gets stronger. Officials called it adaptability. Allies called it resolve. Moscow heard something else. The rules had changed. Kiev responded next, and it surprised many. President Volodymyr Zelensky didn't hedge. He didn't soften his words. He didn't wait for approval. He issued a blunt ultimatum. Ukraine would not be sidelined in negotiations about its own future. Ukraine would not trade land for silence. Ukraine would not accept any agreement written without its consent. No matter the pressure, no matter the cost. Zelensky wasn't posturing. He was drawing a line publicly with his country on one side of it. The statement carried weight. It wasn't just rhetoric. It was a declaration of sovereignty, a refusal to be managed, divided, or decided for. For the first time, all three actors revealed their true positions. Russia demanded submission. Ukraine demanded agency. The United States demanded consequences. This wasn't a stalemate. It was pressure testing to see who hesitates, who flinches, who blinks first. What stood out wasn't just the response, it was the speed. It surprised Moscow. Speed itself was the message. Analysts now believe the ceasefire rejection was never about the ceasefire itself. It was positioning, possibly ahead of a large-scale spring offensive, possibly to lock in a long-term frozen conflict. Military operations, diplomatic messaging, and propaganda moved together. This wasn't chaos. It was choreography. Every strike, Every statement, every silence, this war no longer exists only on the battlefield. It now stretches into diplomacy, economics, alliances, and global credibility. It's about borders. It's about sovereignty. It's about whether force can rewrite international rules. Then came something unusual. The Kremlin went quiet. No dramatic counter-threats. No immediate escalation rhetoric. No public overreaction. Silence in geopolitics is never empty. It's often louder than threats. The ceasefire was rejected, but the real consequences are still unfolding. Decisions are being made behind closed doors. Strategies are being adjusted in real time. Thresholds are being tested. This is no longer a battle of words. It's a battle of resolve. And the world is watching. Who blinks first?